Welcome to another episode of Erasing Shame. And as we finished our Advent season and Christmas is upon us, we're so grateful that you would take a moment to check in with us here at Erasing Shame. And today we have a very special guest, Dave Dicken. And I got introduced him over email, and we got to meet in person like a week right after that. So I'm very excited to get to chat with him and to have him share his life experiences with you as we learn how to live healthier lives. Dave Dicken is a crisis counselor at Crisis Text Line, where he supports people who are in a hot moment. And he also ministers to people who are struggling with a mental health difficulty, and he teaches classes on how to best support your loved ones who are suffering from mental illness. Dave, thank you so much for making some time to chat today.
Thank you so much for having me, DJ. I've been looking forward to this, and I hope and pray that our discussion will be fruitful and support some folks and erase some shame.
Wonderful. And we had connected through a friend who actually worked on a book about shame throughout the Bible. And we've had some side conversations about shame, but specifically we want to spend some time talking about your work with young people, high schoolers and young adults who may struggle with different aspects of life. And I'm sure shame is kind of a dark cloud that covers all of that, and it can manifest itself in different kinds of ways. So tell us a bit about what you've experienced and what you've shared over the past few months or years.
So I think it would be best if I started with my story and why I became a crisis counselor. My dad died by suicide. He suffered from a mental illness for decades. He literally tried everything. And today, as I sit here on this podcast with you, DJ, I can tell you that with my training as a crisis counselor at Crisis Text Line, and we're going to talk about this throughout the podcast, it's 741-741. And your viewers need to put this in their phone. They need their friends to have it in their phone, so that way when they're in that moment of crisis, they can text HELP to 741-741, and we'll talk more about that. So as the result of my dad's death, I went to the suicide walk in Pasadena, California, coming out of darkness, or out of darkness, I think is the exact name of that ministry that helps folks. And there was a booth there, one of the booths, lots of booths were there, and this one was the Crisis Text Line. So I signed up, actually not really knowing what I was going to get into, and I became a crisis counselor. And through that training and experience, I'm able to help people not only when I'm on the platform at Crisis Text Line, but also when I'm off the platform, like right now on your podcast. But what I started to say a minute ago was, if my dad was alive today, I would better be able to support him. In fact, it's very unfortunate that I can't, but I know he's up in heaven smiling, a big smile. I know my dad, and he's got all the hands moving just like me. And he's very proud and thankful that there's some fruit and that his death wasn't in vain. And now my daughter is just finishing her master's degree in social work at USC. So we're addressing shame, DJ. And again, thank you for having me on your podcast.
Well, that's impacted you so personally, and I don't want to move too fast away from that. How old were you when your dad died by suicide?
So he was 63, and he was born in 1941, so that'd be 2004. So I was 40. I was born in 1964, so I was 40.
Wow.
And I knew he was struggling, and I wasn't surprised when I got the call. And I was one of his big supporters, but I didn't have the tools that I have today. I knew what to say as a son, but now I would know more what to say with the training that I have and some coping skills and some best practice, focusing on emotions and not the situation. It still would have been a long journey. It would have still been painful, but I could have introduced, some of the things that I've learned today. So now I can help other people and raise up other people and help other people.
Yeah. One more question about your situation, and then we'll talk about the tools and resources that you've learned along the way so that our viewers and listeners can learn from that as well. So um, having a loved one so close die by suicide, did you have to sort through some feelings of shame yourself?
I did not experience personal shame, but I will tell you this, DJ, and I haven't said this a lot, but I'm going to say it on this podcast. Mental health, people that suffer from mental health difficulties, in many cases, suffer alone. They're physically in the room with you, but they're actually alone. My dad would say I could be in a crowd of people and be totally and completely lonely. So unfortunately, as my dad planned his suicide and slept with the weapon under his pillow and then used that pistol on himself that day, he had to do that alone. And honestly, DJ, I wish I could have stood there and held him as he died by suicide. People might not understand why I say that, but I say that because of that pain of being alone. One of the messages that I have is you're not alone. And I'm asking your listeners and viewers and the folks that are suffering from a mental health difficulty, yes, you have fear. Yes, you have depression. Yes, you have anxiety, and we know it's real, but we want to best support you. And we don't want you to suffer alone. And I'm sure that's what you're doing with your work, DJ, with Erasing Shame.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
So that's a very powerful picture, and it's very graphic in many ways, but it's a reality.
Yes, it is. And that very much is what shame is causes us to feel and react with, is to feel like we're all alone.
Yeah.
And that's why we hide.
And withdraw.
That shame. Yes. And disconnect with people, and even when there's people around, we still have that overwhelming feeling.
Yeah. So sometimes it's worse when you're around people.
Wow. You're right.
You're afraid somebody might come up and start talking to you, or then let's say you're acting withdrawn at a party. Someone might say, "Are you okay?" It might be worse.
Wow. Oh, I'm feeling a lot of feelings right now. So thank you for going there with me, and thank you for going there yourself. So let's talk a bit about your work with the crisis text line. So when people call you in a hot moment, what is a hot moment, and what kind of issues do you help people work through?
So this is text. I log on my computer and I receive text messages from someone in pain. And because it's texting, I get a lot of youth. And when I say youth, 14, 15, 12, 11, and I've even had single digits. I've had kids tell me I'm 7, I'm 9, a lot of 15-year-olds, sophomores in high school, a lot of college students. And a hot moment is what we're looking at as an imminent danger, potential self-harm. A lot of times people, after they self-harm, will text in to talk about it. Or someone might text in and say, I'm worthless. I'm wasted space. I don't want to live. I'm suicidal. I'm tired of this. I'm done. Can't I die? These are the kind of messages that we get. So we call it a hot moment because it's imminent risk and it's high risk. Other organizations like NAMI, National Alliance of Mental Illness, that would be a ministry for what we would call a warm support, ongoing mental health support. Whereas with Crisis Text Line, we're dealing with that hot moment.
And what do you say, or what do you text back to people, or do you try to schedule a phone call, and how do they get out of that hot moment?
Great question. It's all texting, no phone calls. It's live, and we're on it. We start with asking them, was there a trigger? Also, too, we begin to build them up. So they text in and they feel worthless, but actually with all the pain that they're in, it took great courage to text in. And I tell them that because they'll talk about a loss in their life or ongoing depression or ongoing anxiety, or maybe they're having a panic attack at that moment, I'll ask them for their name sometimes. That helps with connection and validating and just building that rapport early in that conversation. And and we just begin to connect, and I validate the fact that you're having a panic attack, yet you were able to pick up your phone and send me a text. And I make it very real, DJ. Someone texted in just a few days ago, and he said, I want to self-harm. I want to self-harm really bad, but I've been clean for a year. So I said, I am here to stand with you. You're not alone, and I'm going to help you to stay safe. Can I ask you what you might use to cut yourself? And he described an object and a razor blade. And I said, while we text, can you put the razor blade in the other room while we have this conversation? And he hesitated, and he ended up saying yes. But what he did was he left the razor blade in his room, and he went into the bathroom. So then I said, okay, so you're separated from the means, so you're safe. This is good. There's no hurry. There's no rush. How about a glass of orange juice? So it's very practical and simple, and we're trying to go from hot and just begin to cool down a little bit. And the texter said, I don't want to go downstairs. I said, that's okay. Are you warm? Do you need a blanket? No, I'm warm. I'm okay. So that's kind of how we built. So I've tried to be very real, and I'm not here to say like, don't do it. Like, I'm there to really connect with that texter, and even dealing with like, are you warm? It's okay to lay on the bathroom. I'm not going to do all these things. Let's just slow down. Let's begin to relax the mind, and even validating, DJ, if I can continue. I had a caller. She sent me a text, and she said, I'm having a panic attack. She said, I was abused when I was a child. I was abused sexually when I was a child. And right now I'm having a panic attack. I'm an adult now, and I'm no longer being abused. And I said, okay, how about a glass of water? And she said, I already had a glass of water. I said, okay. I said, it sounds like it might be a good idea to begin to relax your mind. And she said, I don't want to relax my mind. I want to stay mad. And I said, you know what? With what that man did to you, it's understandable that you want to stay mad. So that's how we support our texters.
Wow. That's amazing. And it's as I hear you talk, you want to stay calm.
Right.
And over time, as you talk with them, that they would kind of begin to catch that and match your tone of voice. And then the other thought came to my mind is you're not trying to reason with them. You're trying to validate their feeling, to say feelings are real, and you can understand why they would feel that way. And you're also doing something physical. I think it's not just the thoughts that people are wrestling with, but if they can do something physical, that'll change their feelings and thoughts. Is that what's going on there?
Absolutely. Yeah, because like you said, it's real. One of the things that's part of our training, DJ, is we focus on emotions and not the situation. So I got a text from a girl the other day, and she said, my sister and my mom are mean to me. They yelled at me, and they don't like me. I did not speak to that situation. I could have said, oh, that's mean. Oh, your mom needs to do this, or your sister shouldn't do that. I didn't say any of that. I don't know what happened, nor can I fix it. But I can support that texter. So I began to validate her. So I asked her about hobbies. You know what she told me? She was a weightlifter. And then she tried to, she said she was a weightlifter. It was a girl. And then I began to ask her about the weightlifting, and she almost like tried to tone it down like it wasn't a big deal. But then I asked her, I said, well, who do you weightlift with? Oh, I weightlift at school. I said, really? How often? Every day. And then I said, well, who do you weightlift with? Oh, there's 3 of us girls, and I really like my coach. So then I
Mm.
said, tell me about your coach. See how I took that one little thing she said, oh, he's wonderful there. He's wonderful. He's there for us, et cetera, et cetera. And then I asked her, I said, well, what kind of weightlifting do you like? And she said, and if your viewers know anything about weightlifting, you'll appreciate this. She said, I like the clean and jerk. And I said, wow, that's an Olympic event. Maybe someday you're going to be in the Olympics. And then there she went, oh, these are my goals. This is what I want to do. So I was able to build her up and make her feel better. The situation didn't change, but at least she had some strength and some resilience. Resilience is a really good word with mental health, because we manage our mental health difficulties. And a good way to manage it is to surround us with people and develop resilience. So we look to repeat what worked in the past. So you'll hear a lot of times I ask the texter, what has helped you in the past? And sometimes they say nothing. So if I'm painting a bed of roses here, I'm being a crisis text counselor, it's not a bed of roses. Sometimes they'll say, I tell them my name, David. They say, you're not helping. And I got to take that, and it ain't fun. So, but we keep trying. And I've had them say, you're not helping. And then they say, stop. And if they say stop, we're done. And it hurts. And then sometimes they say, you're not helping. And then I try something else and I connect with the texter and we have a positive outcome.
That's great. So glad you're doing this work and you're able to really offer yourself to help people and to build them up and to draw from their own life experience that they already have.
Absolutely.
So they have that memory and you're able to repeat, like you said, repeat that memory so that they can resilient and bounce back and take that next step in life. That's amazing. How long do these text conversations go for, and are they private?
They're one-on-one. They're confidential, other than the fact that my supervisor could be watching my calls. Crisis Text Line is very advanced in their technology. So if you go to Crisis Text Line and you click on jobs or careers, you're going to see IT directors, software developers, because what they're doing is they're scanning all these text messages, and they're looking for words like suicide, self-harm, gay, lesbian, military, all these things that have a history of suicide. And so if sometimes my supervisor will send me a text and say, Dave, why don't you finish your assessment, because this person is in a high risk category. And that was because there was some scanning going on, and then a message was sent to my supervisor. In fact, I'll just kind of ask my own question and introduce something, because I want to make sure we cover it, DJ. The chief medical officer at Crisis Text Line sent all of us crisis counselors an email about 2 months ago. And the chief medical officer said, we're introducing a new policy. And that new policy is always ask on every conversation whether the person has already stated that they're suicidal, or has made reference to suicide, or if they just say they're having a bad day. We always ask. And it's interesting because the mental health community is communicating. Because when I told my daughter that I mentioned earlier, who's a social worker, she said she got that same message from her community. So we're in an always ask. We're in an always ask policy now. And also, viewers, when we ask about suicide, we're not giving the ideation. The data says we're not giving the ideation. In fact, DJ, this is an interesting story. My very first conversation after that new policy was introduced, I asked the texter, with the way you're feeling, are you thinking about killing yourself? And the texter said, no, but usually I do. And it's something like that. And then I said, and I got real specific because I want to make sure I covered it. I said, so are you feeling suicide? Are you saying you're not feeling suicidal right now? And she said, no, surprisingly, no. Notice how I asked, and she said, surprisingly, no. So I didn't give her the ideation when I asked.
That's a very important thing to clear up, that people who haven't been trained and are not exposed to that, they don't realize that asking someone, are they feeling suicidal or are you thinking about killing yourself, is not a dangerous question to ask. It's actually a very important question to ask. Very good.
Every once in a while, the person is offended, but most people, DJ, they'll thank you for asking.
That could very well be the open door and the lifeline that helps them out.
And sometimes they say yes, and then we address it in a loving way, of course.
That's great. And so at this point, let's mention what is the website for Crisis Text Line if people want to learn more and get involved.
Yeah, so just Google Crisis Text Line 741-741. I actually don't remember because I just click it. If
that's okay.
Textline.org or .com, but it's everywhere. In fact, DJ, just quickly on Crisis Text Line, one of the nights I support texters is on Sundays. And when I log in, historically, it's been about 10 people in the queue, maybe 20. Well, because of Facebook and other social media, we are experiencing quadruple volume of texters. Last Sunday night, when I logged on, California time, about 6 p.m., there was 104 people in the queue. It got down to about 90. And when I logged off, because we have to have good self-care, it had 124 people in the queue. There's a lot of pain out there, DJ. In fact, 2 of my supervisors told me, unless it's imminent, please don't ask us for help because we're going to take calls. Yeah.
Wow. So we'll add a link in the show notes. So thank you for, again, mentioning 741-741 for those who are in that hot moment and just need take that little step to get out of that very painful moment. It's a huge step. Yeah. And as we, so we've taken the time to address those who are desperate and just need a simple but big step of help. How about for the rest, the other viewers and listeners who have a friend or a relative who is struggling? What are a couple of the tools and resources that you can coach them through on how to support a friend or a family member who's struggling, especially here in the holiday season? It's a very emotional time for people.
Actually, I'm going to log on Christmas Day. There's going to be people in pain on December 25th, and I'll probably do about a 3-hour shift, and my family will support that decision. In any event, I'm really glad you asked, and actually this is what we are going to talk about. I get text messages from adolescents, from you, these 12 years old, these sophomores in high school. And when I ask them, so they'll tell me, oh, I cut myself. And I'll say, did you tell your mom? No, I don't want to get in trouble. Have you told a friend? Oh, they won't understand. Or they'll say, I don't have any friends. But then there's another story. A girl sent me a text. I was having a conversation with a girl about her pain and her self-harm and her anxiety and panic attacks and her mental health difficulties. And she doesn't have a good working relationship with her parents. And this subject, you know, they just tell her to get over it. And some of these things that well-meaning parents do. And she said, but she did have a friend that helps her. And I said, really? It sounds like you're really close with your friend. And she said, yeah, her name is Emma. And Emma has been with me through everything. And I said, wow, that's really special. And she said, yeah, I love Emma. I said, can you do something for me? And she said, sure. I said, can you tell Emma that David at Crisis Text Line says that you're amazing? And she said, I will. And I said, okay, well, before we close our conversation, can I get a commitment? And she said, sure. And I said, can you commit to spending some time today with Emma? And she said, I will. Thank you for helping me. So we're only there as crisis counselors during those hot moments or when they're texting. But there are so many opportunities for high school students. It's not just adults. If you're 14, 15, 16 years old, 12-year-old, you can help your friend. You could be an Emma. Isn't that amazing? And
That is,
all you can do, all you need to do is talk to your friend. You don't need to be a counselor. You don't need to be a psychologist, but you could be a friend.
yes.
I have a loved
Yes.
one. When I send her a text message, and actually I don't even ask her anymore how she's doing, because if I send her a text message and say, how are you feeling? She might not respond. But if I send her a text message and I say, how's your cat? She'll go on for 10 minutes. So talk to them about non-mental health conversations, maybe like low pressure, hobbies, things like this, DJ. It's very powerful. You can even help. You can even get your loved one a pet, or you could have a high school friend. Take them to the pet store and just go play with the puppies, and look at the parakeets. And there's things like that that are so simple yet so helpful.
That is wonderful. Thank you for those very practical tips, and thank you for sharing some real life stories. And I believe that as our viewers and listeners hear those stories, one of them will really relate to where they are, and they'll realize they're not alone and that there is help. And there's a very easy way to reach out, 741-741, and text someone privately and have a safe conversation where they're not judged, and they can begin to find resilience because it's within them. They have life experience that can draw from. So as we close, do you have a final word for our viewers and listeners?
Yeah, let's get 741-741 in our phones, because we don't know when we're going to need that number. So let's just have it in our phones and just text in and say, help. The other day, a texter said, I don't know where to start. And I said, I'll start. So we can help. We'll help you.
That's great. If someone wanted to reach out to you personally because they've really resonated with your story or your message, I mean, especially because you have experienced personally a loved one like your dad dying by suicide, that's a very sensitive topic. And I would imagine that there are some that would prefer to talk to you rather than just someone who's an expert in the field. Could they contact you by email or some other ways?
Yes, I would love to make myself available. So my email is outreach@thecause.cc. I know it says outreach, but I'm the only one that gets those emails. So that is a confidential email address, outreach@thecause.cc. And my YouTube channel is Make Someone Great Today.
Oh, what a great idea for a channel. And we'll add a link in the show notes to your email and to your channel. And thank you so much for what you're doing, Dave. And I hope to stay in touch with you in the new year. And Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Thanks, DJ.
Thank you, Dave.
You're welcome.
And thank you, viewers and listeners, for watching and listening to this episode of Erasing Shame. You have a happy holiday and Merry Christmas. And we hope to see you in the new year. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.